And let's take it back a little because people don't know. I know you. So, but people, if they don't know who you are, and this is going to be a great introduction to you. When did you realize, or when did someone else tell you you had that golden voice?
Oh man, I was very like probably 15, 16. And I mean, I've always wanted to do sportscasting. Yeah, I grew up in the Chicago area watching, the greats. We have a lot of great old sportscasters here in Chicago that cover the Bulls. And I grew up in the Michael Jordan era of the Bulls in their heyday, watching the Bears. I'm a diehard Bears fan, as you know.
Yeah,
Very happy with what we're doing right now at 3
yeah,
and 0.
yeah.
Big Blackhawks fan, and I grew up in that golden era, and I realized I didn't have much athletic ability to, even at the high school level, et cetera, et cetera. So I got into sportscasting when I was 16, 17 years old, doing public access TV, started following around a guy in the fight business named Miguel Torres, who was an MMA fighter at the time, 135 pounds. It was before MMA was regulated. So we started following him around. I started announcing all of his fights for local access TV, showed him a week later, went to college, did an MMA boxing radio show, started ring announcing locally in MMA, transitioned into boxing. And then from there, I got hooked up with Golden Boy and I started filling in for their guy, Joe Martinez, on their solo book sales series on Telefutura. So I started with them in 11. I was with them 11, 12, early part of 13, and then I got hooked up with Artie Palullo at Banner Promotions and did ESPN Friday Night Fights for a few years, thanks to him and Matt Rowland and Mark Abrams. I made my HBO debut in April of 2015, and then got hooked up with Tom Brown at TGB Promotions in December of 14. And then once, through all of that, was able to meet people within, Heyman Sports, Sam Watson and a lot of, the matchmakers over there and stuff like that. And once TGB Promotions, really started taking off and they started promoting, PBC events, I got with PBC in June of 15 and then really started with them in July of 15, announcing all the ESPN fights, and the rest has been history.
And some of the fans may want to know what moments stand out to you throughout your career.
The moments that stand out for me, the number one moment, Fred, what's funny is that you and I go way back,
Uh-huh.
and you're going to remember this moment.
Uh-huh.
We were at the Courtyard Marriott
Uh-huh.
on a Tuesday morning before the Mayweather McGregor tour. And
Uh-huh.
I saw you. I'm like, Fred, man, you're busy. You ready for this? And you're like, man, I don't know what to expect. This is going to be unbelievable.
Uh-huh.
And I really didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be massive, but that's the single greatest moment of my career, especially that Friday in London when it was the first time they were in a boxing ring together, and I hosted the London press conference. So I was on the whole tour as the in-arena host on Tuesday, Wednesday. I did LA, Toronto, Brooklyn, London, but I was the host of the full London, press conference with Mayweather McGregor. So there's a moment when we're at the Wembley Arena, 11,000 plus, worldwide television audience. I got Mayweather on one side, McGregor on the other side. I got Dana White, Steven Espinosa, and I'm in the middle of that. And for me to understand, and it hit me, I'm like, you are next to the two biggest names ever in combat sports history, arguably. And it's not going to get much higher than this. That meant the world to me. And I owe so many people, Skip Davis, who passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Skip Davis.
We were in New York.
Did a lot for me, and he was the one when this started being talked about. I'm like, hey, I'd love to be a part of it. He goes, all right, I'll get back to you. And a lot of people, Kelly Swanson, the Browns, Tom and Brittany Goosen Brown, they all went to bat for me when other people weren't. Like, was he experienced enough? They were like, he's ready. And they gave me that opportunity. I was in the car in London when we landed, and Leonard Ellerby looks over at me. He goes, Ray, he goes, you got this? Meaning hosting the London press. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, and this and that. He goes, okay, cool. He goes, I knew you would. He goes, but he goes, I just want to say a couple words. He goes, it's all you. And for Leonard Ellerby, who's been there, done that 50 times over again, to be able to have that much confidence in me, and for us to be able to have that moment. And then after the press conference was over, we got a couple hours of sleep. Skip and I flew back to New York because we had a PBC on Fox event the next night. But that's what we do. That was a big moment. Announcing a fight for World Boxing Super Series. I have I love international events with Inoue and Donaire, 25,000 people, sold out crowd. That was the biggest fight I've ever ring announced for. 30
Mm.
million people watching around the world. And then the HBO debut when I did Provodnikov and Matisse. I grew up loving Jim Lampley. I think he's the greatest play-by-play man in boxing history. For Lampley to throw it up to me in the ring, it's like me being 7, 8 years old watching a 29 or 30-year-old me and saying, dang, like this is a guy who I look up to, who I revere. For him to throw it up to me in the ring in a main event on HBO, that meant the world to me. So those are the three that stand out, Fred.
And in due time, you're going to be throwing it up to somebody, and they're going to be like, Ray Flores was the
I hope so, my man. I mean, I love being around this sport, you know.
So